the most frightening nightmares of his life.
The town is so still.
The pain begins.
There was a camp not far from here, just across the lake. It was called Camp Blackfoot. No one goes there anymore. Everything burnt down. There's nothing left.
Man, this guy's burned so bad, he's cooked. A fucking Big Mac. Overdone. You know what I mean?
Look, I asked for lubricated rubbers. These aren't lubricated rubbers, you understand that?
What am I, Masters and Johnson?
Glazer's dead.
What the fuck are you talking about?
No, really. I saw him
Look,
kill
would you be
Glazer.
quiet? You're gonna wake everybody up, huh?
The same guy at the window. Burnt face, the burnt face.
Hi, this is Adrienne King, Alice from Friday the 13th, and the hysteria continues.
Yes, indeed it does. And welcome back to episode 75. And this time we're heading over to Camp Blackfoot and various other places with The Burning, which is another listener pick, this time courtesy of Russell Hillman, aka Freaktown Comics. So thank you, Russell, for helping us grab this big one finally. And so we're going to be talking about The Burning a little bit later, but before we do that, introduce you to our fellow intrepid happy campers. Joseph, how are you doing?
I'm good, and hordes of panicky people seem to be evacuating the town for some unknown reason. Nathan, without knowing precisely what the danger is, would you say it's time for our listeners to crack each other's heads open and feast on the goo inside?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would,
Okay.
Joseph.
Okay.
Good.
I take that as a Simpsons reference, is it?
No, it's from Dallas.
We just got plenty of Simpsons references on this show.
Is it from Dallas? No, it's not, is it?
No, it's
That was
from
Sue
Dallas.
Ellen said. Okay. Thank you, Joseph. And Nathan, how about you?
I'm doing very well. I have a wonderful quiz for you all later on.
Ah, yes. Another chance for Erik to shine, or not. Erik, how do you feel?
Well, I feel very confident, seeing as I'm the champion of most of the quizzes of recent times. Nobody
You share that honor. You share that honor with me and Johnny from the last episode.
Johnny Schmoney, Nathan Schmathan.
Well,
the real thing people should look forward to in this episode is my joke of the day, because it's burning related. It's hilarious, and I'm sure it's guaranteed not to get a tumbleweed.
Okay. Well, let's see if you can pull that off a little bit later.
I think I will be able to. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, we have got The Burning coming up, and we've got plenty to say about that film, including probably a shit ton of behind-the-scenes information. So before we get to that, I mean, before we get to what we're going to talk about, I was going to say very quickly that we are recording this episode about a fortnight in advance because, again, mine and Erik's jet-setting lifestyle means that we're having to pre-record this. So it means I certainly haven't watched a great deal since last week when we recorded the Unhinged episode, which we're releasing tomorrow, which will be 2 weeks ago when you'll listen to this. So it's all very confusing. But
it's like Back to the Future Part 2.
It is. But Erik, have you managed to squeeze anything in the last week?
I did. I watched John Carpenter non-horror Big Trouble in Little China, which came out on Blu-ray. Is that a gasp of admiration or a gasp of disgust?
It's only one of the greatest movies of all time.
It is. It's a film I've been very fond of since I first saw it in VHS in the 80s. It's follows Jack Burton, who's this sort of clumsy comedic hero, and his supposed sidekick Wang, who does all the sort of chop-socky action on his behalf. And they go into this mystical, supernatural underground, trying to rescue some damsels in distress, and it's all in great fun. And I'd be interested to know what Justin thought of Big Trouble in Little China, because I have a feeling it's probably not a film that you would like that much, Justin. Would I be right?
Well, to be honest, I haven't seen it for a long time. Probably not since the VHS days, so I couldn't comment. I mean, to be honest, I enjoy a good romp as much as the next man.
So we hear. The Blu-ray is actually great because one of the great things about older films coming out in Blu-ray is that tend to be more candid on the extra features. So you get John Carpenter and Kurt Russell explaining sort of why the film, well, I suppose tanked is not too strong a word at the box office. And they're pretty damning about the film company and the promoters and all that, and how they failed them when it came to promoting the movie in the summer of '86, when everyone was predicting it was going to set the box office alight, and then it failed dismally. I compared it with more, I rented out Pacific Rim, the Guillermo del Toro blockbuster from last summer, which was quite good, incidentally, but the special features on it were so dull because, a brand new film, it's just all press pieces and fluff, and, there's no point even looking at any of the behind-the-scenes stuff because it's just going to be, there's not going to be no scandal. Whereas with Big Trouble in Little China there was, and it was far more interesting to listen to the commentary and watch the making of featurettes and things.
Okay. Well, I'd like to see it again at some point. But Joseph, you were saying it's one of your favourite movies. What about you, Nathan? Are you a fan?
It's okay.
Well, there you go.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you talking about Big Trouble in Little China or Pacific Rim?
I've never seen Pacific Rim, but I think Big Trouble in Little China is all right.
Oh, okay. Yes, Big Trouble in China is great. Pacific Rim, it's just so-so.
I've not seen that either. Not yet. So, Erik, anything else?
No, but I did have a specific rim.
Oh, Erik, look, I've got a new clip for you.
It took me a long time to get all that in there.
I bet.
Ooh, Babs Windsor, I love it.
Yes. Right. Well, Erik, we'll leave your rim out of it.
Okay.
Nathan, how about you?
Unfortunately, I've been working nonstop, so I haven't really had much time to watch anything. I watched one of your favorite shows, though, Justin, Downton Abbey.
I've never seen an episode of that. It's a kind of misnomer completely that we all watch that kind of crap in Britain. I
didn't think you did.
No. I told you I've been to where they film it though.
Where's that?
Highcliffe, which is kind of down near Winchester way.
All right.
So
I like how a cliff is down somewhere.
Well,
that's Southern England for you.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's a decent show. It's but it's got Maggie Smith, and I love Maggie Smith, so I'll watch anything with her in it.
Okay. Well, no, it sounds good.
It's bizarre we're discussing Downton Abbey and the Hysteria continues.
I know. We need to get...
I just thought I'd bring a little class. I thought I'd bring a little class to the show.
It's far too late for that, Nathan.
Yeah, after talking about rimming.
Yes.
75 episodes later, he decides to bring class to the show.
I always try to class it up.
I know. Well, any show that can mention Maggie Smith and rimming. Is it Maggie Smith? Who is it?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Maggie Smith.
Maggie Smith, yes. But anyway, enough of that, I think. Joseph, can you bring us up a peg or two?
Yes, I watched one movie called Plus One.
Okay.
It's basically these teenagers. Reese Wakefield from The Strangers. He's this teenager whose girlfriend breaks up with him after she sees another girl kiss him, and they go to this party, this big teenager romp at some house in the woods, and a meteor strikes the Earth, and for some reason it messes with the electrical system, and it causes a shift in the time-space kind of continuum, and so they're at this party, and then other versions of them are at the party as well from 2 hours earlier, and they realize that a select few of them realize that their timelines are starting to merge, so they start panicking, and it's a pretty neat concept, but it's not really executed very well. There's some pretty good scenes and some pretty good acting. There's one scene I won't go into, but it almost saves the movie for me because it's kind of hyper violent and everything like that. But it's just one of those movies that has a great story, but you don't really care much for anyone in the film. So it's kind of I'd see it just for the premise, but don't expect much.
Okay. I don't think. Well, I haven't seen that. Did you say it's quite a new movie?
Yeah, it came out not too long ago, 2013. It's fairly new, so.
Okay, but not one that you'd recommend then.
marginally, just for the premise, but other than that, it's a one-time watch. But yeah, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I've been watching just a lot of dumb comedies, which I won't go into.
Okay. Well, for me, I've not watched a massive amount either. One thing I did watch, though, was a film that we were asked. Well, I volunteered to review a film on Hysteria Lives for anyone who gave some money towards the night before Easter. So I've reviewed a film called He Loves Me, He Loves Me Not, which is a French film from 2002, and I'm just trying to find out the name of the person who actually asked us to review that. Joseph?
It was Paul Chandler, I believe. Let me double check, but I believe it's Paul Chandler.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind checking, because I'm just trying to find it on my Facebook and I can't find.
I know Paul Chandler.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think it was Paul Chandler. It might be, but let's find out anyway. But he sort of said that it might not be a slasher movie, and it's not a slasher movie, but it's got kind of enough things associated, I kind of guess, with a slasher movie. Essentially, without giving, well, basically the whole twist is already given away on the box anyway, so it's not a massive twist. But essentially, what it is, it's the story of a young woman played by Audrey Tautou, who played Amélie, and is one of these kind of elfin French actresses, are very typical, and it starts like Audition, like the Japanese, is it Miki Takashishi, whatever his name is, Audition.
Tahashi Meek or Mike,
that's
or whatever his
the
last
one.
name is.
So yes, it starts like a romantic comedy, but in this, it was basically this woman falls in love with this married doctor, and she's wooing him. And it's all about her, with her friends, and then moping around when she can't be with him. And then halfway through the film just rewinds completely back to the beginning, and then you see everything from his angle. And in fact, she's actually completely mental, and he doesn't even know who she is. And it's quite clever, and it kind of doesn't do any kind of slasher movie stuff as you imagine, but it's got that kind of slightly deranged thing, and it's kind of almost like a pre-runner, I kind of guess, to High Tension and Inside, those kind of more graphic slasher movies that came out of France a few years later. But I've written a review, so I might try and get that up on Hysteria Lives in the next few days. So, did you find out who asked us, Joseph?
Yes, it was Paul Chandler.
It was Paul Chandler. Okay, well, sorry, Paul. So, but yes, by the time you listen to this, it will be up on the site. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I've been watching recently, I think. So,
I want to see that.
Good. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, it actually sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it
sounds
quite
like
interesting.
4 Times That Night by Mario Bava, except in slasher movie style.
Yes, yeah, it's quite clever. It's because it's got I don't know if you've ever seen Amélie with Audrey Tautou that came out the year before, where she plays. It's very kind of whimsical, but she plays somebody kind of stalking somebody, but almost in a light romantic, whimsical, fantastical way. And it's kind of then for her to take on this role where she's kind of doing the same thing but in a much darker way. And it's just very clever the way like there's bits in it where you see at the beginning he receives a rose that she sent him and he smiles, but when you see it back from his point of view, he thinks it's actually been sent by his wife. So there's lots of things that in there, it's all kind of misdirection. It's kind of quite cleverly done. It's not entirely successful, but yeah, worth a watch. So I think without further ado, we should move on. Before we get crispy, we should probably get down and dirty with Nathan's quiz. And let's see, will it be the return of Inga? I think everyone's been missing Inga, haven't they?
That's because I'm just too good these days. I'm just too good.
Well, we shall see. Can you bring out the inner Inga, Nathan?
Well, Erik is still kind of Inga even when he wins.
He is. He's a very ungracious winner and loser.
I think that's very unfair.
Really, Erik, anyone who's listened to this show for the last 75 episodes or last 5 episodes even will probably agree with me.
We'll see.
Well,
okay.
Without further dudes, we will go into this quiz, and by random draw, Justin gets to go first.
Oh, well, I think that's probably the sign of things to come, isn't it, Erik? Okay.
In your dreams, you're going down, baby, and not in a good way.
You mean like last night? Okay.
There are 3 doors before you.
Right.
Which one would you like?
I will go for, in time-honored tradition, I will go for number 2.
Okay, these are quotes from slasher movies. You just got to tell me what slasher movie it's from.
Yep.
Okay, this quote is, Dr. Jordine, they are kids. They are kids. They are not guinea pigs.
I know. Silent Madness.
No, I'm afraid not. We pass it to Joseph.
Oh.
Okay, Dr. Jordine, they're kids. They're not guinea pigs. Trying to think of a movie where kids are being used. Is it The Initiation?
No. Erik?
It's a slasher movie, is it?
Yep, it is.
Okay, is it Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors?
No, it is not.
No.
The answer is Fatal Games.
Of course it is. Yeah.
That quote, I know, kind of threw you off.
Because they weren't guinea pigs, they were human.
That's true, they were human. So, Joseph, would you like 1 or 3?
I'll go with 1, please.
Okay, in what film does a man say uncle, bag a bitch?
Say uncle, bag a bitch.
Yeah.
Silent Night, Deadly Night?
No. Erik?
No idea at all. So I'm going to say... I still Know What You Did Last Summer.
No. Justin?
I've no idea either, so I'm just going to say... Uncle Bag a Bitch. Invisible Maniac.
No. The answer is Don't Go in the Woods.
Oh.
You know, he calls his friend a bag of bitch and then throws the sleeping bag over the tree.
Okay.
And then she goes, "It's Dick."
Well, that was a different girl, but it really was Dick, though. Erik.
Yes.
What movie is this from? And the quote is, sometimes with the tides, it can take someone all night to get in from the mainland. And even then, sometimes they don't make it.
The Slayer?
No. Justin?
Gosh, that does sound familiar. I'm trying to think what's got... how about April Fool's Day?
Damn it.
That's right. Joseph, I knew you knew that. I was hoping you'd pick 3 because I'm like, you'll totally get that one. All right. Next round.
Who's in the lead?
Now,
no, we don't need to know that. Just go on to next round.
Justin's in the lead.
Thank you.
Okay.
Congratulations, Justin.
Thank you, Joseph. Sorry, Erik. Did you? I thought I heard you say something.
No, I said nothing.
Okay.
All right, Joseph. Do you want the silver door, the gold door, or the platinum door?
I'll take the platinum door, please.
Yeah, and you'll get let out into an alley. But
I knew that's what you were going for.
This is basically, I'm going to describe a scene from a slasher movie, and you just have to tell me what movie it is. Okay? Mm-hmm. It's a warm, sunny day. There's a knock at the door, and a wife opens the door to a man pretending to have a letter for her husband. Not realizing the man is deranged, she says, "He's not here, but you can come back later." And he's like, "Well, you can rest assured I will." What movie is that from?
Is it Nightmares in a Damaged Brain?
No. We move on to Erik.
No idea either, so I am going to guess Honeymoon Horror.
No. Justin?
It sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't know, so I'm going to take a guess at Bloody Birthday?
No. The answer is Alone in the Dark.
Oh, yes. Yeah, okay. It's Martin Landau, isn't it?
What'd you say?
Martin Landau, isn't he, at the postman?
Yep. Yeah. Yep, he is.
Yes.
You are correct.
Do I get a point?
Okay, so now we move... No, you do not get a point. Erik, do you want the silver door or the gold door?
Silver, because it's the name of a really good Echo and the Bunnymen song.
Yeah. A woman with wonderful big 80s hair is in a convertible, and the killer is stabbing through the roof with a giant knife as she tries to dodge the blade.
Oh, that does sound familiar. Is it Night of the Demon?
No. So we move on to Justin.
Well, it does kind of sound like quite a few slasher movies, doesn't it? I wonder if the big hair's a clue. Well, it would be a clue, but I'm trying to think. Trying to think of films where women driving. Is she driving? Is she actually driving? Is she moving, or is she stationary?
Stationary.
Well, you see, I would have got it then if you told me that.
Oh, would you?
Oh,
Yeah.
Would you, Eric? Yes.
Sorry? I would have. I know what it is now.
Stationary, I don't know, so I'm going to take a guess at Innocent Prey.
No. Joseph?
Is it Final Exam?
No, it's not. And before I give it away, Eric, what is the answer if you said you would have gotten it on that clue?
Obviously, it is Freeway Maniac.
No, it's not. The is Aerobicide.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought the big hair probably meant late 80s.
Well, in fairness, PJ Souls has huge hair in Innocent Prey.
She does. Massive hair. That's why I thought of that.
So, Justin, I believe this last question is yours.
Okay.
And it says, a maniac descends upon a young woman in bed and buries a hatchet into her skull, splattering the sheets with blood.
Well, that would be Unhinged.
You'd have to be Unhinged. That's unfair, because that was only last week.
Well, it's a luck of the
you
draw.
could have picked the gold door, Eric. You picked silver over gold.
Inga is back.
Inga is back with a vengeance.
You're just all just bitter that you can't be as super Inga as I can.
Can we have?
Well, Eric, you get to go first this time.
Can we have the scores on the doors, please?
No, we don't need the scores, thanks.
Justin is in the lead with 2, and Joseph and Eric are tied with 0.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay.
Oh. Okay, well, Eric, you get to go first this time. Would you like to take the silver door, the gold door, or the platinum door?
Platinum, like Choya's record sales.
Okay. These are just random questions. So your question is, what movie features a killer dressed as Santa Claus beating a girl to death with a baseball bat?
Oh, which one could it be? Oh, is it Christmas Evil?
No, I'm actually surprised you didn't get this one. No, I'm afraid not. So we move to Justin.
Oh, I think I know this one. Oh, God, what's it called? It's the one with Sybil Danning, isn't it?
You have to know the title.
Yes, I know. Oh, God, fucking hell. What's it called? You're Playing with Fire?
No, it's not. That's not the answer.
That's not
the answer.
Not the title.
Oh.
That's not the title. I'm going to give you half a point.
No,
though,
you're not going to give many points. It's not the title.
Yes, I am, because he did know. He at least knew what movie I was talking about. He just missed the title. Okay. So,
can I get
Joseph,
half
for the other half, yes, you can get the half point.
They're playing with fire.
Yes, they are.
Right.
See, Eric, I wrote that question for you because you reviewed that movie.
I did.
Well,
okay, so
Eric's off his game, isn't he?
Oh, shut up, you.
So now we're moving to Justin.
Okay.
Do you want the silver door or the gold door?
I shall go for gold, I think.
Okay. Where does the climactic final scene take place in Final Exam?
Where does it take place? Well, it's in the... when the book, it's a clock tower, but I kind of guess well, I don't know if it's meant to be the clock tower in the film or not, but I'll say the clock tower.
I believe you are correct.
Okay. Thank you.
I think it's more of a bell tower than a clock tower, but it's Justin, so obviously... Why don't you give him 3 points for that?
I'll give him 5.
Thank you.
Yeah, why don't you?
Nathan.
I'm very happy I brought Inga back out.
Yes, it's nice to see her back, isn't it? Sunning herself in the blaze
I
of
just don't
humiliation.
appreciate cheating.
Sorry?
I don't like cheating.
Okay.
Joseph, what movie features the film Rock and Roll High School? It's a slasher movie, and it features a tiny bit of Rock and Roll High School. They're watching it on TV.
Okay, Rock and Roll High School. Trying to remember what year Rock and Roll High School was out, so they're watching it on TV.
Yep. And it is a slasher movie.
I don't know. Evil Laugh.
No. So, Eric?
I think the film Night Screams. There's lots of people watching lots of movies at the start. Is it Night Screams?
No. Justin?
Is it Slumber Party Massacre?
No. That was a really good guess, Justin, but I actually could not give you a point on that because it's actually Slumber Party Massacre Part 2.
Oh, I did say Part 2.
He didn't say Part 2.
I did say
Part 2. No, he didn't.
You did.
Sorry?
I was like, oh, you did? You did say Part 2?
Yes.
No, he didn't.
I did.
He gets 10 points for that.
If he gets points for that, I'm hanging up right now, and I'm never coming back.
I did not. I told you I
points.
didn't give him a point for that.
I did say Part 2. If you listen back, I did say Slumber Party Massacre, and then there was a break because my thing broke up, and I said Part 2.
Yeah.
So it's just.
I'm going to come over there
down.
and break up your thing if you get a point for that.
Just calm down, Eric, before I saw your mannequin head off.
Well, the reason I thought was because it's the Roger Corman. Isn't it Roger Corman link, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Roger Corman link, yeah.
Yeah.
You were close, though, but those are two very different films.
Well, they are, but I did say Part 2. If you listen back, well, I mean, I'm
no,
so
you're
far,
turning into Inga. Oh,
I'm
look
so
at
far in the
Justin's
lead now,
absolutely
Eric. It doesn't really
embarrassing
matter, so I'll be very gracious, unlike Inga.
You're
and
not
just
being
say-
very gracious.
I'll
You're
just
being very
say,
insistent.
well, just let that one go. But
You're just embarrassing yourself now.
The listeners will hear. But anyway, we'll just gloss over
Your
that, shall
family
we,
must
Eric?
be so embarrassed listening back to you.
Do you want to?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't even remember who went first that last round now.
It would be my turn this time.
Oh, it's your turn. Okay. Good on you. Okay, so I've taken little snippets of reviews from the Hysteria Lives, and I'm going to read a couple of lines of a review, and you have to tell me what movie is being reviewed. Okay? So, Joseph, silver, gold, or platinum?
Let's see, I was stuck with silver. I picked platinum, so I'll go for gold this time.
Go for the gold. Okay. There is a theme of dangerous perfectionism behind the killer's reasoning that seems as if they would feel at home in the early 20th century, and certainly not in the
All-American
late
Murder.
20th century. Yeah, that was your own
All-American
review.
Murder. Yes.
That was Joseph's review.
Well done, Joseph.
Okay, so Eric, would you like silver or would you like platinum?
I'll go for platinum, the way I like my Junes.
Okay. Against all odds, there's actually a couple of creepily effective moments. Notably, the sight of a house's windows turning off one by one with an ominous crash on the soundtrack, signaling the still alive presence of the good old boy Sacco.
The windows turn off.
One by one.
How do you turn off a window? That can only have been written by Justin. When the windows turn off. Is it from Ghost House?
No. Justin?
Death Valley?
Yes.
Thank you.
How does the window turn off, Justin?
Well, you just look at a window, and if someone turns it off, that's what it looks like, Eric.
What? Electrical windows.
It's a turn of phrase. It's an English turn of phrase. You being Irish, you wouldn't understand.
Yeah, whatever.
All right, so we're going to Justin.
Okay.
All right, this one is: the boom mic invades the screen from time to time to add to the unintentional mirth. The male lead wears a particularly obscene tight blue polo neck that will have most of us counting our lucky stars we weren't old enough to be fashionable in the early 70s.
Is it Scream Bloody Murder?
No. Joseph?
Can you say that again, please?
The boom mic invades the screen from time to add to the unintentional mirth. The male lead wears a particularly obscene tight blue polo neck that will have most of us counting our lucky stars we weren't old enough to be fashionable in the early 70s.
Oh, 70s. Okay, so 70s, male lead. God, I know it. Sisters of Death?
That's right. And that was Eric's review.
Yes. Well, I didn't know it was Sisters of Death, though. Early 70s.
What were you going to say?
Well, it was because it said early 70s. I thought I was going to go for Death Carries a Cane on one of the other genres I reviewed.
Okay, so this next round.
Oh, Eric is gonna lose.
That's terrible.
Oh, Joseph, how could you?
You know what that's going to do to me.
Okay. Next round. I asked you all, besides Halloween, Black Christmas, and Friday the 13th, what is your favorite film we've covered on the podcast? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Eric, and he's going to tell me what Joseph said his favorite film was.
Ooh. Joseph said okay, I have two in mind, but I'm going to go for My Bloody Valentine.
No. So I have to pass it to Justin.
This is Joseph's favourite one.
Yes,
that we've picked.
That we've picked. In the last...
that we've picked on the podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Trying to think. It's not necessarily the best one, is it? It's the one that
he likes the most.
He likes the most. Nail Gun Massacre.
No, that was a good guess, though.
That was going to be
what I would have picked.
Yeah.
No, Joseph, would you like to tell them?
It was actually April Fool's Day.
Okay.
Oh.
Well,
indeed, it was.
I wouldn't have guessed that one.
Okay.
No.
Joseph, you get 5 points for that because you guessed it right.
Hey, this is ridiculous.
I'm just kidding. That was a joke. All right. So now we're moving on to Justin. What did Eric say his favorite was?
Wow.
I know it. I know it.
Bloody Moon.
No, Joseph.
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
That's what I wish I'd said now.
Okay, I think I know. Is it Fatal Frames?
No, Eric.
Damn.
What is it?
The answer I gave was Deep Red.
Oh.
Deep Red. This is how well we know each other on the podcast.
Yes.
Okay. And now we'll go to Joseph. What did Justin say his favorite was?
Happy Birthday to Me.
No. That's a good guess again, though. Eric?
I'll go again with My Bloody Valentine.
You are correct.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm surprised.
Although Justin did give an alternate answer, too. Would you like to give that alternate answer now, Justin?
It was Hell Night. I would have gone for Happy Birthday to Me, but I think we were still finding our feet with that episode, so it's a little bit painful to listen to now, isn't it?
I thought it was like what films we liked the most rather than what episodes. Was it?
No, it wasn't what episodes. It was what film, yeah. So I would have given you a question like, what is my favorite? But I can't because I don't even know. So
well, they're all
Last Slumber Party.
I love them all equally. That's a very good contender there.
You didn't like the German crimi. That's the name I can never remember.
Oh no, I didn't like it.
Phantom of Soho.
That's it.
Yeah, wasn't a big fan of that one.
Well, we're doing an all crimi episode next week, aren't we?
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, we're not really. No.
Now, bonus question.
Okay.
I just came up with this on the cuff. I'm going to play a little snippet of music here, and you have to tell me what slasher movie it's from. And this is just whoever knows it can shout out the answer.
Okay.
No, sorry. See, this is why I never do sound clips. I usually don't do sound clips, but I tell you what, I'll make this even easier.
He's very professional.
Yes.
I know. This is how professional I am with the quiz. But now, in my defense, like I said, I didn't come up with this, like, you know, as part of the quiz. I just wanted a bonus question suddenly.
Okay. Well, who's in the lead at the moment?
All right. Well, if we are going to say who's in the lead, let me go back to I write it all down on paper. Justin has 4.5. Joseph has 2.5. Eric has 1.
Okay.
Could you say that again?
Could you say that again?
No, I don't need to say it again. What are we waiting for?
I don't know. What are we waiting for?
Well, my sound clip's not going to work, so I'll have to save this for another time and actually do an official sound clip once somebody shows me how to do it.
Okay.
I've known you all this long, and you've never shown me how to do a sound clip.
Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph.
Actually, I have. He's probably just forgotten.
No, the way you showed me doesn't work. It has a lot of, static in it or something.
User error.
Uh-huh.
What was the piece of music? Because we did hear a snippet of it.
No, I can't tell you because I really love this question and I don't want to give it away.
Okay. Well,
let's all congratulate Justin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Joseph. I accept your congratulations with the humility and good grace that I'm now accustomed to. Erik, did you want to say anything?
You're a cheater. Plain and simple.
Thank you.
Maybe you should send your little joke now. Maybe that'll
cheer him up.
Make you feel better.
Yeah,
it would make me feel better, and it's actually particularly good this week because it's burning related as well. Okay. So the joke is, how did copies of The Burning make their way over to the UK?
I don't know.
Tony mailed them.
Okay, well, moving on. Should we? Thank you, Erik.
That was actually a halfway decent joke, just because it was so dumb.
Yeah. Did that cheer you up, Erik?
Joseph's comment was nice. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Well, let's move on to the feature and presentation, and you can put yourself together, Erik. Will that be all right? If you want to take some time out, just to put yourself together.
Okay.
So, we are going to be moving on to the feature presentation of the week, chosen by Russell Hillman, who very kindly donated some money to the making of The Night Before Easter, which actually, before we do that, do you want to know how you're pretty much done, aren't you? Have you finished filming?
We've wrapped with the primary story. We have one more night to film the opening scene, and then we are completely done with filming.
Okay. And obviously, by the time you've heard this, you probably would have finished everything, wouldn't you?
Yes.
You're into editing now, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Right. On a moonlit evening many years ago, a group of young campers played a trick on Cropsey, the camp caretaker. The trick backfired, and Cropsey became a horribly disfigured maniac, a mutilated killer with a thirst for revenge. This is a terrifying account of Cropsey's return and a trail of blood he leaves in the dark woods. Don't look, he'll see you. Don't breathe, he'll hear you. Don't move, you're dead. That is the very short synopsis from the back of my Fawn EMI video cassette, which you can hear, which is one of the original video nasties. So I've got one of the original tapes here. Now, The Burning is, say, one of the big boys, as it were, of the slasher movie. It's a film that I know there's a lot of hype around it, and a lot of people don't like it, or they find it an also-ran and whatever, and it is definitely like a rip-off of other films, but I'm quite a fan of. I do enjoy it. I think it's a strange mix, but it's got a very distinct charm, and it's got some very good things going for it. I think the cast are very likeable. You could tell, obviously, get onto the background, but they got on very, very well. But it's also has a juxtaposition with the Tom Savini gore effects, which I would say, for me, are probably his best gore effects that he ever did, most consistent gore effects. And also it has the infamous raft scene, which for a long time, back when I started Hysteria Lives, I put up a Real Player RAM file, if you remember those, which was probably one of the most downloaded files from Hysteria Lives for a long, long, long time. And I would say, arguably, it is probably the most iconic moment or scene from any slasher movie released in the early 80s. And it still packs quite a wallop today. I mean, the burning, to my mind, isn't perfect. It goes on a little bit too long with all of the kind of juvenile pratfalls and meatballs style humour. But I think, along with films like Halloween 2, Happy Birthday to Me, and Hell Night, The Burning kind of captures that essence of fun, nightmarish kind of popcorn horror thrillers, the slasher movie at its best, really. But I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. Joseph, what are your thoughts on The Burning?
Yeah, I'd say I agree with you. I like The Burning quite a bit, but it does have its flaws. For one, I wasn't too fond of having Brian Backer as the final boy. I mean, no offense to Brian Backer, I like him. I've liked him in other things, but I kind of agreed with Glazer. I think he is kind of creepy. Always like kind of peeking around at girls in the showers. I mean, I would do that too, but I wouldn't be as creepy about it. But I think the film is missing a really good chase scene with a girl. As is the standard in slasher films, I think it's missing here. Like you said, some of the pratfall humor kind of goes on too long, and I mean, it's all in kind of good fun and good nature. There's nothing really mean about it, so it's not terrible or anything, but it does kind of, compromise the running time and more than it should. But I think, overall, making up for it is some, like you said, some outstanding Tom Savini gore effects, and that raft massacre is so memorable. It's just incredible. And I do like the showdown with Cropsey, Alfred, and Todd in the abandoned mines or whatever that is, some kind of ruins. I think, Tom Savini goes all out there with Cropsey getting his just desserts, as it were. One thing that I was kind of, disappointed in is they kind of paint Leah Ayres or Aries or whatever her last name is. She was I loved her in Bloodsport with Van Damme, and so I really liked her here, and I really wanted her to kind of be like the one who faces down Cropsey. And I think she gets on the helicopter and she goes back to the camp, and then she comes back and she just kind of like stands there, or either that or she just kind of fades into the background and doesn't really do anything. And I really wanted to see her kind of take charge and kind of get into the battle. But, it's kind of a missed opportunity. But for what they did a pretty good job. Overall, I'd say, see this one for some of the great gore effects and especially that raft scene. And I do like, some of the other death scenes, and playing Spot the cameo is always fun. So, more than a marginal recommendation. I think The Burning is maybe a little overhyped in my opinion, but it's certainly not a terrible film. But I enjoyed it.
Okay, right. Well, thank you, Joseph. Eric, how about you?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of The Burning, I have to say. I do agree that it has flaws, though. For me, I don't think the raft sequence is probably as effective as for most of you guys. My favourite Tom Savini moment in the film is Glazer getting the shears through the neck and being hoisted up and slammed against a tree, which I still think is a phenomenal gore effect to this day. The raft scene, it's everything that it probably happens too quickly, and I don't know, I've just never found it as impactful maybe as other people have. For me, the biggest problem though with the film is there's too many characters. It suffers from that girls' night out syndrome. if you want to call it that, where you have all these background characters like Tiger and Marnie and Sophie and, you know, all these different names, and like they're given 1 or 2 lines each, and they're not really needed in the plot. And I would have liked to have seen more time given to sort of the main characters. And also, as Joseph was saying, I don't think Alfred was a necessary character either. I would have preferred to have seen, obviously I'm going to say this, Jason Alexander maybe, or Fisher Stevens as the survivor of the film, or Leah Ayres either. I think we've discussed before that Alfred's kind of an unsympathetic character in the film. I mean, he's one of those people who goes around moaning to Todd and Michelle that he's being bullied all the time, and, you know, I hate people who do that.
I can imagine.
They're
Eric.
so annoying. Yeah. People like that are just so annoying, aren't they?
They are. Yes,
they are. And also the pacing wise, again, the Prowler, I think from the same year, suffers the same kind of problem. I'd actually prefer Savini's murder effects in the Prowler. I think they're slightly more realistic and gory in that one. But one of the problems I had when I first saw The Burning was all that pratfall humor, and the fact that after the credits you see Cropsey murder the prostitute, and then you're waiting maybe 45 minutes for another, you know, money shot, for want of a better word. And that used to always bother me. I felt the pacing was way off. But rewatching it again this week, that wasn't as big a problem. I was getting more and more into the film. And I have to say, the Scream Factory Blu-ray looks fantastic.
It looks
really,
good,
really is.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so I know I do love The Burning. I love the summery atmosphere, the woodsy atmosphere. It really feels like 1981. As Justin was saying, it's one of those slashers from that era that sort of captures, you know, lightning in a bottle, I suppose is what you'd call it. It's certainly not something you could ever recreate. So yeah, if they'd focused more maybe on a core 6 or 7 characters and not had sort of 20 people with 1 line each, maybe I would have it up there with, you know, the Halloweens and Friday the 13th. But certainly it's a 7 out of 10 movie, 8 out of 10 movie probably for me.
Okay, right. Thank you, Eric. How about you, Nathan?
I'm afraid it's a 6 out of 10 for me.
No,
really?
What?
It's above average. I gave it above average rating, but
what,
I have several issues with it. For one, there at some points it feels like it. Like Eric said, there's way too many characters. I don't like that in a slasher movie. And I love the raft scene. The raft scene is incredible, but I don't know. Like I hate not having a final girl. I'm not a fan of final guys in slasher movies. I never have been. I like the final girl battling the killer. It's formula. I like my formula always the same. You know, no changing it. And I don't know. Like there's just something about it doesn't click fully with me. I love the shears as a murder weapon, and I think that's a great idea. But I don't know. Like I think it just doesn't hold up to, you know, the classics of that era. And I think a lot of people, you know, do hold it up to the classics of that era, and I just don't see it personally.
Yeah,
because
Nathan,
I find it to be a good movie, but it's not great. You know, I mean, it's not a Halloween. It's not a Friday the 13th. It's not even really a Friday the 13th sequel. You know, it's below that for me, but it's, you know, well above a lot of other movies. So for me, The Burning just kind of fits in that middle of the range area for me, which means it's not very rewatchable because it's not bad enough, you know, to be like, you know, to laugh at and find it stupid, but it's not, you know, good enough to be held up to those extreme highs, like I said, of Halloween and Friday the 13th and things like that. So, you know, The Burning is one I can watch like maybe once every few years.
Controversial.
I'm floored. Yeah,
I know.
But no, I mean, I didn't say I didn't like it. I do like it. I just don't love it.
Okay. Well, Nathan's been controversial, and I'm sure everyone at home is picking up their jaws off the floor. But
I'm probably going to get a lot of hate mail for that one.
Well, it's good to have different opinions, isn't it? I mean, mostly it's
one of the things that bothers me about the infamous raft scene is that people have loads of time to get away I mean, Cropsey seems to like raise his shears into the air for a few seconds. Like, there's time to jump into the lake and swim off.
Well, they're frozen in fear. They're frozen in fear.
What I do like about that scene is the fact is that Cropsey has set it up so he's lying in his canoe on the off chance that they're going to build a raft. On the off chance that raft is going to go past him. And he's lying there all... Do you know what I mean? It's kind of...
It's like an iced, encasing yourself in a snowman in the off chance.
It's there's slightly... Well, I think with the burning is that Cropsey is kind of omnipresent, isn't he? He gets everywhere all the time because they canoe upriver. So what was he doing? Did he canoe after them in his fedora and black coat? I mean, how did he get upriver? There's all these things which don't really stand up to scrutiny in it, but that's not a problem because I think when I looked at it, obviously we get onto the whole urban legend around Cropsey a bit later, but that doesn't really bother me because I mean it's not as bad as say Friday the 13th Part 7, Jason Takes Manhattan, where Jason Voorhees kind of pretty much teleports from place to place, but it's he's like an omnipresent.
That's Friday the 13th, Part 8, not Part 7. So I think that should be 5 points deducted from Justin's quiz total.
Well, I do apologise for that, Erik, but I've already won the quiz.
Still with the Inga-isms.
Still with the Inga-isms.
Long after the quiz has ended, he's still going on.
He can't let it go. I bet when we finished and he's at home tonight, he'll be ranting at, I don't know, some teddy bear or something, and stabbing himself with chunky Kit Kats, trying to cut himself. With a Twix.
You know me so well.
Smearing it all over his chest.
Yeah. But Erik, just get over it, please. Please, I'm begging you. Okay.
You're the one who won't shut up about it.
Well, I won, didn't I? Have we lost somebody?
No, that's somebody.
No.
Somebody keeps on going off or coming on.
and then keeps
sorry. I do apologise. I'm not sure who keeps on coming on my Skype.
I'm afraid we must demand that all of us delete everybody who's not each other from Skype.
Okay, well that's probably a good thing, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I don't know who. I can't. Nothing's coming up. But anyway, it's not very scintillating this. But a couple of other things I noticed in it which made me laugh was I liked at the beginning. The beginning with Cropsey gets burnt by the kids in Camp Blackfoot, and he happens to have a can of gasoline next to his bed. I mean, how many people sleep with a can of gasoline next to their bed? I don't know.
How do you sleep with those fumes? Yeah.
Well, exactly. And also, the other thing I liked was the... I think I said in my review that it was a kind of very much of its time, that kind of cynical thing, that you've got this kind of Burns unit where this poor man has been... I mean, he might have been a real bastard to these kids, but he'd been burnt head to toe, horribly. And this orderly or this junior doctor, you're never quite sure what... He's just basically taking the piss out of him, isn't he? Getting people to come and look at the burnt freak. Yeah. So he's like hardly Florence Nightingale, really.
No.
So you can understand if that's the kind of pastoral care that Cropsey was getting, and why he might be a little bit bitter.
I like the way that just when they're releasing him from hospital, they just wheel him up to the front door, and then it's like, bye.
Yes.
Is it any wonder he just goes straight out to a prostitute and kills her?
Well, I thought that was the one scene in the film which I thought was slightly incongruous for the whole film. Was the murder of the prostitute was kind of the others were kind of a little bit like Grand Guignol or whatever. They were kind of almost in the spirit of not fun, but they were kind of like showstopper gory. Whereas the murder of the prostitute was actually quite mean-spiritedly nasty, wasn't it? I thought it was kind of
reminded me of Maniac, like the whole.
Yeah.
He's in the city and it's all neon and. He goes in this really nasty-looking girl, and he has these scissors, and it's really kind of... It reminds me... It's very Jolly-esque and, very almost like William Lustig's Maniac, sort of, kind of like that.
Yeah, it did remind me of that.
Why'd you call her nasty?
She's pretty hideous.
Nasty-looking.
Well, I think that was kind of interesting, wasn't it? Because in Maniac, he only kills really kind of quite beautiful women, doesn't he? Whereas this woman was a beautiful woman at one point, but she's kind of basically... She's overpainted and, she's past her best and they've chosen her to, she's obviously, it's quite a sad character because she probably doesn't want to be a prostitute, does she? And, so it was that kind of, it was all that early 80s kind of sleaziness, I kind of guess Times
I
Square.
like how Justin's putting a backstory to this poor woman who barely has any screen time.
I thought about this movie a lot.
Yeah,
have we
to
thought
do that.
Sorry?
Have we thought about, did Cropsey go to her for sexual intercourse, or did he go with just to murder her?
I think he, my opinion is that he after he left the hospital and they were telling him, all this stuff, I think he probably wanted to kind of have that reaffirmation that he is human. And then when she saw him and had that look, that's when he just kind of snapped. But that's just my opinion.
But those were some pretty bad skin grafts, weren't they? Because they said, we're sorry they didn't take. I mean, they didn't take at all, did they? I mean, he just looked like he'd been...
I didn't think he looked like a Big Mac, though. I thought he looked more like a Whopper with fries.
I thought he looked a bit more like Jackie Stallone.
Yeah.
I thought he looked like a pizza crossed with Stefania Stella or something.
Well, yes, that too, yes.
Marnie's glasses rule. I'm sorry, they rule, okay?
Bonnie Dorosky. Have you heard their commentary track with her and Shirley Bruce on Screen
Factory,
really good. Which is really good. I mean, Bonnie Dorosky, she's not really in it for that much, is she? The film.
No, she's hanging out with the group, but she doesn't get that many lines.
No, she's like a peripheral character, isn't she? Really. But she's kind of she gets more screen time than Holly Hunter. Put it that way.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I'd love to.
Justin, you were talking about Cropsey laying in the canoe, and you're talking about how did he row up there, and how did he know they were going to be there? And I think Nathan can agree with me as someone who's like made a slasher film. I think some of those things you really do have to think, because I don't want to give anything away or anything, but there have been moments where when we were filming the movie where we were like, well, now how in the world does this killer have so many weapons and et cetera, et cetera? And it's just one of those things you have to you just kind of forget about. Like, you don't think about logic in movies like these. Just as an aside.
Well, yes, I think it's fair enough. I mean, it's kind of I don't think it stands up to much scrutiny. But then a lot of films don't really, especially horror movies and gialli, especially those kind of films, don't necessarily stand up scrutiny. And it's kind of I don't have a major problem with it, but it's just kind of fun trying to. It's a bit like trying to look at the timeline for Friday the 13th, isn't it? And trying to work out what year it was all set, and try and link them all together. Because certainly the makers, the people who made them, didn't sit down and try and do that necessarily, or they may have done it in passing just to drive the story forward. But it's not an exact science, so you could drive yourself mad trying to do to look at those kind of things.
I would agree with that, because there were moments where we'd be like, well, in a certain movie, you wonder how they do that. So let's just try to bypass that. And then we spend 5 minutes like saying, well, then how do you bypass it? And you're like, no, it just doesn't work. It's just a question you hope the audience doesn't ask, and you just forget about it. So I can understand why they don't kind of bring stuff up like that, and why he's in the canoe, or et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I think it's kind of, to be honest, for me now, 30 odd years past it, it's kind of just quite charming. It doesn't irk me. I imagine at the time when people were watching these films, like critics, because obviously The Burning was kind of savaged in a lot of ways, like many of these films. But it doesn't, it's find it charming now. But I mean, also, to be honest, the thing that does make the film stand out is one of the things that, like Nathan, you criticised, was like having a final boy. And I think but the irony actually is Alfred isn't really, the final boy, is he? He's the kind of, he's the Robin to Batman, which is like to Todd's Batman, who I kind of guess Todd is really the final boy, isn't he? And obviously, a spoiler alert, you find out that Todd is one of the boys that set Cropsey accidentally on fire in the kind of the prologue 5 years before, and really the whole thing has been about getting back at Todd. So I don't mind that. I think that kind of having that kind of all male kind of thing at the end, as it were, doesn't bother me too much. I mean, it makes it stand out, but I do agree that Alfred is not particularly. I don't really understand why all the other characters, apart from Glazer, stick up for him. Because he's creepy. Do you know what I mean? He is like
creepy.
He looks a bit like we've spoken about it before, but the Harry Potter, who just like he's got a default look on his face, which is either gormless or sleazy, or shocked. It's kind of there's no real depth to him at all, apart from he's just like he's a peeping Tom who just gets a bit more than he bargained for.
He doesn't show any. I suppose the intention was probably to make him this sympathetic, bullied character, and then maybe have him be the hero at the end. But they just never go anywhere with his character. He just stays on the same note for the whole film.
Well, I think if you'd find, Erik, that when you have like a bully character, they're never very sympathetic and they're never heroes at the end. So. But also,
one thing I always wondered is that Cropsey got burned, and he goes out killing in the dead of summer. You'd think he'd wear something like Bermuda shorts or something, because he's wearing that long fedora. He's already been burned. He's out in the heat. I mean, he must be sweating like something fierce.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. He's got no fashion sense, has he? He should be in a giallo, shouldn't he? Because he's got the black gloves and the fedora, and all that. Before Freddie made it a new fashion statement, didn't he, in '84? So it was interesting, wasn't it? Films like this and Pieces, where they kind of borrowed those kind of bits of the giallo, of that kind of the black gloves and the fedora.
Now, one thing I wonder is he wears the fedora when he kills the prostitute, but when he's out in the woods, he's obviously not wearing it, because in that shot when he comes up from the raft and it shows his silhouette, it's his bald head or whatever. So I wonder if he actually wore it at any time out in the woods or not. Well, if he just dropped it and he's like, oops, well, I don't feel like going back for it right now.
Well, he's walking around, isn't he, the summer camp? Because one bit when Alfred sees him at the window, doesn't he? And you think, well, you might notice someone looking like Cropsey hanging around the camp.
You'd hope so, yeah.
You would hope so. At least it's a child protection issue, isn't it, really?
I have to say that scene where Alfred's sitting on the bunk bed and he looks over and you catch the quick glimpse, the way they did that, I don't think it necessarily worked, but the actual idea of that where you just see that face for a split second, that would be terrifying, and then have no one believe you, because when you actually see Cropsey's face, it really does look hideous and pretty scary. So I can imagine seeing something like that for a split second and no one believing you would probably be pretty fucking scary.
Well, I imagine Todd felt the same way when he saw that freeze frame at the end of Karen.
My God. That was like something from the Halloween 2 TV version.
It was... Why? I can't remember, because I did listen to the Tony Maylam and Alan Jones commentary when I first got the DVD a while back. Can you remember what they explained, why they actually inserted that? I mean, obviously it was I don't
think they mention it, actually.
Because it's kind of... They obviously wanted to let's do a Happy Birthday to Me, even though that was out at the same time. But they wanted to do something along those where they find all the dead people there. But what they do, if you've not seen The Burning, or if you're going to rewatch it, is they grab a freeze frame of Karen, who's Caroline... Is it Carolyn Houlihan? Who is the one going out Ned Eisenberg's character, and she's the one who, when she goes skinny dipping, gets her throat cut with the shears. They just take a freeze frame of that and then insert it when Todd's in the mines and he looks round and just sees this freeze frame and he goes, oh! And it's just really badly done, isn't it?
And it's so grainy as well, and it just sticks out like a sore thumb.
I think it probably would have worked all right on VHS, wouldn't it? Maybe
possibly.
If you got VHS and it was a bit grainy, it's we talked about this before. But when you've got something like Scream Factory release on Blu-ray, which looks so fantastic that any imperfection, which there isn't actually with Tom Savini effects, look pretty fantastic. Even at high definition. But that particular shot just looks pretty rubbish. But the other thing I wanted to mention was Todd, again, as the counsellor, because although he paints himself as this very kind of caring and, sort of moral character, he kind of makes light of the fact of what he did to Cropsey, doesn't he, when he tells the fireside story, fire story, doesn't he, really? So he'd actually was complicit or duplicit in this horrific crime 5 years before, and he just makes light of it.
That's probably the same way that you sit around with your friends down the local graveyard and laugh at the way you bully me and push me over the edge.
Well, you do have a point, actually, Erik. Yes.
Yeah.
I have a question concerning that, actually. In the opening bits, and when they're all sitting around the campfire and they're talking about they're going to scare the shit out of Cropsey. Now, Do they actually say, what about, are you in, Todd? Because at the very end, when it shows the flashback, it says, what about you? And then it goes, Todd. Is that like retroactive continuity, or did they actually say that at the beginning? Because I don't remember them actually pointing to Todd at the beginning.
No, they don't say it at the beginning, but there's the other dialogue is mentioned. Is said, but I think they mask the Todd at the start with some other people talking over it or laughing or something like that, so you don't actually hear the name.
Yeah. So it's okay.
It's got a great ironic. The ending is very ironic, isn't it? The Cropsey gets stabbed with his own shears and set back on fire. Which may explain why there wasn't a sequel. Well, there's a number of reasons why there wasn't a sequel, which we'll probably talk about in a minute. But
when he got set on fire at the very end, since he got burned twice, it just turned him back to normal.
Maybe. I mean, the thing was, the guy who played Cropsey, what was his name? It was
Lou David.
Lou David.
Lou David, that's right. I mean, he was only in that beginning scene, wasn't he?
No, he played Cropsey.
Yeah, he plays at the end as well in the makeup, but for the rest of the film, it's somebody else.
Is it? I thought he actually ended up playing some of the stuff. I know Tom Savini did some of the hand shots of him, but I thought he actually did the whole. I mean,
the director Tony Maylam is the hands in the Glazer murder scene.
He said Tony Maylam said he was 90% of Cropsey was him during the film.
Tony Maylam?
Yeah.
Because I know he was a stuntman as well. So.
Well, they wouldn't. I guess they wouldn't have employed Lou David, would they? Just to be, if he as an actor and pay him if they could get away with, doing a cheaper deal with it. I kind of guess. Yes. Okay. Was there anything else you want to say about it before we go on to a bit of background? Because I think we've got quite a lot of background.
Fisher Stevens didn't have very good skin.
He didn't.
He needed his vitamin C or vitamin D.
Yeah, the Blu-ray kind of shows that up a lot, I think.
It does. And also, he didn't. There's quite a lot of discussion on IMDb boards about his very short shorts when he's on the raft and airing his balls.
Really, I didn't notice that.
Did you notice that when he?
No,
well, you can't. I don't know if you can actually. But you can see. It says there's a kind of big discussion about when they're going before they get killed by Cropsey. He's got his legs akimbo, and you can see right up his shorts, and his balls are flapping around.
Oh, I'm rewinding to that moment right now as we speak.
Okay, have a look.
Yes.
So anyway, on from Fisher Stevens' balls to some background. Nathan, do you have anything for us?
No.
Okay. What about you, Joseph?
Yeah, just a couple of things. As you know, Jason Alexander, this is an early role for him, and he was famous for Seinfeld.
Oh my God, you can totally see them. Sorry.
Carry on.
Anyway, Jason Alexander was famous for Seinfeld, but he was also in an episode of Seinfeld called The Burning. So there's that. And what else? That's pretty much all I had. I think the only thing I wanted to mention is I actually had a dream about the raft massacre one time. But my dream was that I was on the raft and then Cropsey come onto the raft. But it wasn't Cropsey. I mean, he was dressed like Cropsey and he had the shears. But it was Gallagher. And he was coming at us real slow. And his hedge clippers were kind of like helicopter blades. And we were all just standing there like waiting for him to kill us. And it took him forever. It was still a freaky dream, but there you go.
That is quite a freaky dream, yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of dreaming...
I don't know why it was Gallagher, but whatever.
Who's Gallagher?
He's the comedian who smashes watermelons.
Okay. Yeah,
no idea.
He hasn't made it over here, I don't think. But,
look him up. He's got really giant frizzy hair and a mustache. He looks really weird.
Okay, well, she'll look him up.
He hasn't made it over. He was like famous in the 80s or whatever. I don't think he's too famous nowadays. But
right. Okay. Excellent. Erik, have you recovered from the shock?
I have recovered from the shock. Oh my God, I can't believe I've never noticed it before, but yeah. Joseph Ellison also had a film in development at the same time called The Burning. Of course, that went on to be changed to Don't Go in the House. Not as much fun as The Burning. as a film, but interesting enough, it has a great disco scene in it. Some of this information I've taken from your website, Justin. I'm sorry for being a thief. You were saying that the film originally had a different ending on the one that was shot. You got a copy of the script courtesy of Bonnie Dorosky. Yes. Now they actually have a script on the Blu-ray that came out from Scream Factory, and I had a quick skim through it, but it seems to have been retrofitted script, if you know what I mean, because it's word for word as what's on screen. Right. I thought it might have been an early draft, but it's not at all. So, but in this original ending, Alfred was supposed to die, and Todd was the one final survivor of the final three, and I think that probably would have made for a more satisfying ending, I think.
Yes.
And there was a character apparently called Alan, who was to be a love interest for Tiger, played by Shelley Bruce, and that was axed as well, that one. The music is done by Rick Wakeman, who was famous for being in Yes, and for wearing a cape, and being a prog rocker, and going on stage with about 15 synthesizers around him. Justin, I sent you an audio clip earlier today. This is something I discovered in my trawls through the internet. If you want to play it.
Snatch some ice, get some rain, and talk about the latest to play. Tell them where you're from, son. Yeah, Brooklyn, New York, East New York, the latest homicide in New York. Okay, that's of course everyone's favorite band, The Alchemist, featuring Little Dap, and a song called Straight BK, which, as you can tell, samples Rick Wakeman's score from The Burning.
That's just disheartening.
Rick Wakeman was quite a big name at the time. So, well, I suppose the Harvey Weinstein and is it Corky Burger is his name, were concert promoters. That's where the connection probably came from.
Corky Burger.
That's his name.
I know. What a name.
Yeah, because I don't think if they hadn't had connections in the music industry, I doubt they would have got somebody of Rick Wakeman's caliber to do a score for a $500,000 movie, whatever it was. Tom Savini on the featurette of the Blu-ray, of course, it's famous, that he turned down Friday the 13th Part 2 to work on The Burning because he had objections to Jason being the ongoing character in the Friday the 13th series when he was adamant that Jason had died. What a fool he was. Although many people say there's so many similarities between The Burning and Friday 2, or Friday 1 even, the film, actually, the script would have been completed. It's commenced filming in August of 1980, which would have been about 2 months after Friday the 13th came out in cinemas. So you have to kind of believe them that they had it all sort of in place, ready to go before, that became a monster hit. It was made in North Tonawanda, which is up near Niagara Falls, apparently, in the summer of...
Niagara Falls! Slowly I turned. Sorry.
The guy does a stunt at the start, and incidentally, if you watch that scene, I only noticed this again on the Blu-ray watching this week, when Cropsey comes out of the cabin on fire, you can see somebody in the window who's in the cabin as well. Obviously, some kind of pyrotechnic man or something. But anyway, the guy did the stunt was Reed Rondell, and he was only 17 at the time, and he was the son of a famous stuntman called Ronnie Rondell, but unfortunately Reed died in 1985 in a helicopter crash on the set of Airwolf. Airwolf was that a movie or a TV show? I can't remember.
It was a TV show.
TV show, yeah. Mm-hmm. Jack Shoulder was the editor on the movie. Of course, he went on to make one of my favorite 80s movies, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. There's a Jesse on the phone.
It's also Alone in the Dark, didn't he?
He did, and he did The Hidden as well, which I haven't seen in a long time, but I remember being quite good. He comes across on the featurettes on the DVD as being a bit pretentious. He says that he was a big fan of Renoir and Truffaut and Fassbender movies, so he really wasn't a good fit for The Burning, I don't think. And he certainly didn't go on to make films of the caliber of Renoir or Truffaut. With Freddy's Revenge, it's hardly a avant-garde piece of filmmaking. Well, it is in my mind, but probably not to film critics. The Shelley Bruce commentary is really interesting because although Shelley Bruce and Bonnie Dorosky are only barely in the movie, they still have loads of interesting trivia behind the scenes. They said that Tom Savini still had the head of what's her name? Betsy Palmer from Friday the 13th, and they used to play basketball with it behind the scenes. She says that Jason Alexander had such a hairy chest that he wasn't allowed to take off his shirt because it would ruin the illusion that he was supposed to be like 16 years old, which is a shame for me. But we get to see his arse. Out of 10, what would you give his bum? Would you give it 1, Justin?
I wouldn't give it 1. No.
No?
You can see his hairy back as well.
Yeah. He's just got it all, hasn't he?
Well.
Originally, he wanted 69 as the number on his shirt as well, but filmmakers thought that was a bit too rude, so it's a 96 instead. Fisher Stevens is not Fisher Stevens' real name. His real name is Stephen Fisher, but because, those silly SAG rules where 2 actors can't have the same name, he changed it to Fisher Stevens. What else do I have? That's about it, Justin. I will pass it over to you now.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, a few bits that you haven't said is that the Weinstein brothers, when it was the first Miramax production, and Miramax was actually, I think it was set up by them and named after their parents, which is Mira and Max. That's why it was named that way. And their mother worked in the office when they were making The Burning. And although Harvey Weinstein says The Burning's the worst film he ever made, I mean, he's made some turkeys in his time. But at the time, they were very, very much into making this movie in a big way. And it stemmed from the stories he heard about Cropsey in upstate New York. And he said, to quote, "It remains so vivid in my mind all these years, I knew a film had to be made from it." What else is, you talked about Don't Go in the House. I think the whole thing about whether or not it was a rip-off of Friday the 13th, I think the script was registered before Friday the 13th went in production, but the Tony Maylam basically said that the script was written in 6 weeks and was tailored very much into, it was rewritten and tailored very much into a kind of something of its time, which is basically a slash movie rip-off. The film that was there was 2 Cropsey films in production or about to go into production at the same time. The other one was Madman, which was rewritten to basically turn it into Madman Mars, and was delayed. And that film didn't come out until that was filmed in 1980 as well. Like The Burning was filmed in 1980, in August 80, but Madman was filmed in October 1980. But the film wasn't released until 1982, so it would have been a stablemate much more if it had come out at that time.
Madman, they had learned that The Burning was using that tale, so they switched theirs. I think that's what I'd heard.
Yes, no, that exactly, and that's what cost them quite dear, really, because it delayed the release of it because there was such a glut of similar type movies. Harvey Weinstein insisted on a murder every 10 minutes or so in the script, although, as you said, Erik, there wasn't, there was a good 40 minutes without any murders. The budget was between $500,000 and $1.5 million, but it's kind of generally thought it was the latter. Some of the with the people who were in the movie, quite a famous casting director called Joy Todd cast most of the actors. Carrick Glenn, who played the girl who gets killed with the shears, which you don't actually see what happens to her. The one who does the dirt, bangs the uglies with Glazer and his lubricated rubbers. Sally, yes. She was also in Girls' Night Out as well. And apparently she got some very good notices in theatre productions after that and then disappeared. And I think I've mentioned this probably when we did Girls' Night Out, that I did track her down in a kind of internet stalkery way. And she's now married to a wealthy chemist benefactor at some university somewhere. So she probably doesn't want anything to do with the film, and certainly she hasn't been involved with it. The other one who probably doesn't want anything to do with the film is Brian Matthews, who played Todd, who went on to he's become a Republican. We tried to become a Republican politician in Texas, I think it was, of all places, in 2012, and he didn't get elected, or something happened. But now he is a very, very religious marriage counsellor, and you can find his website where he offers to cure marital problems with verses from the Bible. So it's probably unlikely that he would want to talk about this film either. But when he did the film, Tony Maylam thought he was, although he's married, I think with 5 kids now, Tony Maylam thought he looked a bit too, how can I put it, limp-wristed, as some of us are on this podcast. I'm sure you're aware, and made him dye his hair brown rather than the blonde it naturally was.
Who was it? Brian Matthews?
Yes.
Oh, right.
They made his hair was dyed brown because Tony Maylam thought he didn't look macho enough. Basically,
he would have looked like a member of Westlife.
I see what's going on here.
What?
I think obviously from the clues of him being a hardcore Bible thumping Republican, and in the past he was kind of quote unquote limp wristed. I think he might be kind of reverse closeted. I think he might have went back into the closet.
Yes. Well, we shall. We won't see. That's open for conjecture or whatever. But Shelley Bruce, who was appeared as Annie on stage before she did this. Brian Backer was also in Meatballs, which he appeared with Jack Blum, who went on to play Alfred in Happy Birthday to Me. Jason Alexander and Fisher Stevens ad-libbed a lot of their dialogue, or rewrote a lot of their dialogue to make it funnier, which I think actually kind of really helps the film because it makes it much more natural. I think you talked about how Tom Savini's... did we talk about he turned down Friday the 13th Part 2 to work on The Burning? And you've also talked about the alternative ending. When the film was being made, a lot of the people, about half the cast had heard of The Legend of Cropsey, but a lot of them hadn't. I guess it depended where you kind of were. I kind of guess. They said that it was like a big party. I think Shelley Bruce said that it was just like a big party, and they had a fantastic time, and they were all really bonded, and they had really enjoyed themselves. But when they wrote the promotional brochure, which I've got, they kind of made out that it was like everyone was really scared all the time and really looking over their shoulder in case Cropsey came after them. But Shelley Bruce said the only person who was actually scared on set was Tom Savini, because he was terrified of spiders, which I thought was quite funny. Also, how Tom Savini said that all the young cast were really, really looking forward to being how they would die, and they were queuing up to find how they would die. And Bonnie Dorosky was disappointed that she didn't die, but she said that she was hoping she'd come back for the sequel. Although she does, in the raft scene, it's her hand with the blood dripping down at the end. What else have we got here? Savini had to made his special effects very quickly. It's about 3 or 4 days to make Cropsey, and he based it on a burnt beggar he saw in Pittsburgh when he was a kid. But Savini agreed to go on a publicity tour for the film when it came out, so he couldn't have been too worried about his special effects in it. It was said like Tony Maylam paid Cropsey about 90% of the movie. It wasn't exactly the most happening of places. Apparently the most exciting thing is they went to see a George Benson concert in Albany.
Ooh, I love George Benson.
Yeah. The sinking canoe thing was, which I think is one of the best scenes in it, isn't it? When they're all paddling upstream and they're obviously having a real laugh and all splashing water at each other, and their sinking canoe wasn't meant to happen, but they kept it in the film anyway. There was no sequel, although there was talk of a sequel at the time. And I think maybe if the film had made a lot of money, which it didn't really, there may well have been a talk of a sequel, or more than talk. The film was originally called Tales Around the Campfire. It opened in somewhere between January and April of 1981. And basically bombed and quite big. I mean, even Final Exam made more money than The Burning when it came out. But it opened up to stiff competition because it debuted at number 23 behind Happy Birthday to Me at number 1 in the American box office, and Friday the 13th Part 2 at number 2. It opened on a lot less screens, obviously, but it got re-released in 1982 at the same time, or around the same time it got released on video by Orion Pictures, who I think assimilated Filmways, and then actually earned a lot more money. So that was the main thing. And also it was a massive hit in Japan, where it made over $1 million. But in the UK, it was released by Handmade Pictures, who George Harrison from the Beatles was behind, and part of the Monty Pythons as well. And it was released on the 5th of November 1981, which is Guy Fawkes Night, which is bonfire night in the UK. So it was where they kind of burn effigies of Guy Fawkes, who was the man who tried to blow up the House of Parliament. So with a bit of, so there must have been some bright spark behind publicity. Might have thought it'd been a good idea to release the burning on the same night as bonfire night.
Good pun with bright spark as well.
Well, thank you. That's it really. I mean, I've got the. I mean,
well, did you mention the Thorn EMI debacle as well?
Well, no, I was just going to go on to that. It's kind of about the video nasty thing. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Well, apparently, it had been cut for its cinema release, and Thorn EMI were big players on video in the early 80s, and they accidentally released the uncut version.
Yes.
When they didn't mean to.
Yeah.
And it became, of course, a video nasty. And I was reading John Martin's book, Seduction of the Gullible, which is all about the video nasties phenomena, and he sort of thinks that the whole debacle surrounding their accidental release of the uncut burning is what led them to be so cautious with their subsequent titles, particularly Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which I don't know if you can remember back to that VHS, but it was every money shot was taken out of it, bar the mask scene.
Mm-hmm. Even though it had only been, I think it wasn't a 15 or a double A.
It was a 15, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yes,
well, I don't think the cuts that Halloween 3 suffered were inflicted on them by the BBFC. I think it was Thorn EMI just wanted to stay on the right side of everyone, so they were just being a bit too cautious.
I think they were kind of mortified, weren't they? They accidentally released a video nasty, but yeah, no. So that was it. When it was re-released on video or DVD in Britain in the early 90s, it got even more cut out of it. I think you can get it uncut now, but it was for a long time. It was kind of it was held up probably as I'm trying to think of the slashers that were video nasties. I mean, there were quite a few of them, like Nightmares and Damaged Brain and things like that. But Friday the 13th, Rosemary's Killer, The Prowler, Halloween
Slayer.
2. Sorry?
The Slayer was one, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was, but it was kind of like the big, the tentpole, what's the word for it? The big kind of slashers at the time. It was The Burning was the one that was really, because the Prowler came out as Rosemary's Killer, the international title in Europe and in Britain, and that was pre-cut quite significantly anyway.
I think one of their big problems was the Cropsy's weapon of choice is garden shears, they had problems with weapons that were easily accessible by your average Joe Soap, and garden shears would be one of those.
Yes, and also they had a problem with blood on breasts
boobs
as well, didn't they? Yeah, they said it was a rape trigger. And the Caroline Houlihan murder, because she'd just been naked quite a lot, full frontal, before that, hadn't she? So that was I think that probably the other reason they became quite they were, so even when because what happened was Thorn EMI re-released the film on video with a timestamp which with the BBFC approved version, which 26 seconds shorter, but even that was liable to prosecution and being seized, I believe. But what about the legend of Cropsey? Because I was wondering if do any of you have any kind of legends of unsightly things lurking around in the background?
Just my underwear.
No, but in Tennessee, is there a kind of, because Cropsey, it seems that there was, when I was looking into the legend of Cropsey, it seems to go back to the 1930s or even before that, and there's lots of different variations, like an urban legend, like a Candyman type thing, loads of different variations of who Cropsey was, or what the Cropsey was. And it was somebody who killed Boy Scouts for chopping their heads, somebody who killed his girlfriend. It was kind of lots of vengeful things. But did you, in Tennessee, was there any kind of urban legends of like a local boogeyman or anything like that, like Cropsey?
Not that I can remember. The only thing I remember from like grade school is variations of the two teenagers going out into the woods, and he gets hung from top of the car and his hands brushing it across the car. I think when I found out that it was like a kind of a nationwide or like a worldwide urban legend, I kind of dismissed it. But when I was in like second or third grade. I think they said something about it being related to the battlefield in Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia, which is not too far from here. But and I think there might be in the same area there was some sort of legend of like at a specific time at night, if you go to the tower in the battlefield, you can see like the eyes of a ghost at the top. If you look, it has to be at the right time. But yeah, I think it was nothing major.
What about you, Nathan? Was there anything? Was it like a tale of haunted shoe rack or anything?
Well, there is, but it's gone now. So you can see its ghost sometimes hanging on a door.
Terrifying. Yes. What about you, Erik? Was there kind of like a leprechaun or anything?
No, but in the city I grew up in, Kilkenny, there was a front page story once that one of the groundskeepers at the local castle went back in time.
What, like Cher?
And like what?
Like Cher?
Yeah, kind of like Cher. Yeah, he was one of the groundskeepers. He was just mowing lawns and tending to flower beds, and suddenly he found himself transported back to the 17th century, and he saw lots of ghosts and stuff.
Right. Did they take that seriously? How did he get back?
Well, it made the local newspaper.
Did it?
Yeah. Wow. But that's the only that's the only spookiness I've encountered.
Well, I've spoken about mine with the faceless nun on my before, so I won't go into that. But yeah, no, I thought it's quite interesting with the the background of this, because obviously there was also the documentary Cropsey as well, wasn't there, about the
Yeah, I was going to ask, has anyone seen it?
Yes, I saw it.
I tried to watch it, but it was I got like 30 minutes into it. It was very boring. I need to finish it, but I haven't finished it. I just tried.
No, I'd like to. I mean, it doesn't really mirror up with the film at all, but it was about kind of somebody who was child disappearances and child murders, and somebody living in an abandoned an asylum, and how that kind of urban legend grew up out of that. So I think it's kind of fascinating, that whole urban legend thing, which is obviously why you had films called Urban Legend, haven't you? And looking at that, so.
In the true story of Cropsey, does the camper get lubricated rubbers, or are they non-lubricated?
They're non.
I think you get spermicide ones.
Oh, does he? Okay.
Yeah. Yes, but
a couple of things I was going to mention that you may have mentioned already, and I just didn't hear it. But I don't think anyone mentioned that Holly Hunter was in this, and that she was interviewed not too long ago, where she insists that she had nothing to do with the movie.
Really?
I don't know if anyone's read that. I read that somewhere. I know I did, because they said you had a blink and you'll miss it cameo in a slasher film from the 80s called The Burning. She's like, no, I don't think so. I don't recall ever doing that.
I mean, she just looks like a grinning idiot in the whole thing. And the whole thing, every time he turns to her, she's grinning, isn't she? Like slightly boss-eyed. So you can.
So, I mean, either she did it and she just doesn't remember, or she's just very ashamed. So I don't know.
I think she just doesn't remember. I mean, she was barely in it.
But she's in it a lot. She's in the
she's in the background. She doesn't have much to say, but yeah.
She's
maybe in her memory, she was actually at a summer camp and they weren't filming, so she didn't realize she was in a movie.
Well, the thing was, this was her first movie. They both, like Bonnie Zarowski and Leah Ayres, say they remember her getting off the bus from Carolina, wherever she's from, and having a real southern drawl and wearing cowboy boots, and she was really excited to be doing her first movie. So I think it's pretty unlikely she doesn't remember, because I think you always remember your first time, don't you? It's just that she's just embarrassed by it, I would have thought.
That's what I'd say. Mm-hmm. And I don't think any of you mentioned that Brian Backer and Ned Eisenberg were in another movie together called Moving Violations. And in this movie, Ned Eisenberg played a character who was completely obsessed with slasher films.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
When was that out? Was that later mid-80s or something?
1985. It's like a screwball comedy, kind of like Police Academy, but it's set at a traffic school. And it's got it's great. It's got
It's
all the
hilarious.
famous people's siblings, like Bill Murray's brother, John, Meg Tilly, sister Jennifer, who was not famous at the time, and was it James Keach, Stacy Keach's brother, and et cetera, on it goes. But Ned Eisenberg and Brian Backer in it, and Ned Eisenberg's he's always like wanting to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he runs around with a chainsaw and hockey mask, and he's always referencing all these slasher films.
Does he reference The Burning? It'd be funny.
No, he does not.
Oh, it's a wasted opportunity.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Brian Backer also went on to be in Police Academy 4, which is Citizens on Patrol. Yeah, doesn't he play a skateboarder?
Citizens on Patrol. Come on, Eric, you know it.
I do. Doesn't he play a skateboarder in it, though?
Yes, he does.
The complete opposite of Alfred. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's him and David Spade playing skateboarders. That's very not realistic at all.
No.
Well, I was going to say, if you're looking for more background, then I did a retrospective on The Burning a couple of years ago, which is up on Hysteria Lives, and you click to it through the front page. So it's quite a lot,
including some very rare behind-the-scenes shots as well.
Yes, yeah. So there's quite a lot there. I might add some more bits and pieces. I'd love to get hold of Todd. Well,
I'm sure you would.
Yeah. Well, yes, he was quite handsome in that, wasn't he? It's a shame he turned into a right-wing nut, but
he's probably over at the Winter Olympics right now.
He's listening. Yes. He's going to sue your pants off, Justin.
You can't sue someone for calling someone a nut. I meant like a macadamia or a...
he's tasty is what he meant.
Yeah.
Like a nut.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, that is The Burning. Unless we've got any other burning issues.
Where's that tumbleweed sound?
So, okay, right. Well, that was a burning. Do we have any feedback this episode?
No.
No, we have no feedback. Okay, that's partly...
Well, this is recorded like a week after the last one, so that's why.
It's partly that, and partly because people have been very tardy. And so now you have a month to get your feedback in. Well, no, actually you have 2 weeks now when this goes out. All gets very confusing.
Yes.
But, and Eric, you've got a big but, haven't you? Because you are going to be revealing what we're doing next time.
Oh, I am. Let me just scroll down to see who we have to thank for this one. Yes.
Brad Smith.
Brad Smith has asked us to choose Sleepless, which is the early 2000, probably 2001, is it? Dario Argento, Giallo.
Yes.
A lot of people said back to form. Will we agree?
Yes. Well, we're back to the Giallo, and yes, I wonder. I might do a quiz for that one.
Ooh.
Seeing now I'm the reigning supreme. I think it's only fair to give someone else a chance at winning.
It'd probably meet me or Nathan.
No, it won't.
It'll win.
Me.
Because Eric's back to his losing streak now.
Only temporarily, baby. Only temporarily.
Okay. Well, I've got a good idea for a quiz anyway, so I might pull one together.
You should do a lubricated rubber quiz.
Well, I might well do. I liked Nathan's quiz today. I thought it was very good. Yeah. So thank you, Nathan, for such.
Apart from the not winning bit, I did like it.
Yeah.
Just remember that, Justin, when you come up with a quiz and have like 10 Giallo rounds, that I'm going to lose every question.
Well, it is a Giallo show, so I will chuck some Giallo questions in.
Eric, you'll beat me if it makes you feel any better.
Nude for your killer for every answer, and
I'm going to.
Yeah. Well,
until I get it right.
I'm going to do.
I think one thing we should do, since we're not really doing top threes that much anymore, I think if we do a lot of quizzes, when we get to the second round, we should bring back the cat.
Yes. Okay. Well, actually, if you've been missing the cat, see, gone but never forgotten.
Yes.
And the cat will be back next time for Sleepless. Not in Seattle or Kilkenny. It will just be Sleepless in Roma. I don't know which you're in. Where's it set, Eric?
It's set in Chattanooga.
Chattanooga, yeah.
Right. So
Dario Argento.
It's also known as Nanho Sanho, which I think makes it sound Japanese.
Yes, Nanho Sanho means I can't sleep.
Oh.
I'm sure we'll talk about Argento next time, but have you anyone seen Dracula 3D yet?
Oh, no, but I want to. Is it any good?
It's on Netflix.
Have you seen it?
No.
No, I haven't had the courage.
I did see the clip.
It's a shame to say that. It's a shame that I'm having to say that about Dario Argento, who was such a prolific and great director at one point.
I know. I did see the clip. It's worth watching the clip on YouTube of the giant grasshopper or praying mantis scene in it, which I don't think was.
There's a giant grasshopper in Dracula.
In Dracula, yeah, or the praying mantis, which I don't think was in the original novel. I
don't recall one being in the original novel.
No. But someone's come or gone again.
It's come online all over.
Hey, at least we didn't lose our connection this episode.
It's good since we've come back, and apart from a few sound issues with Erik, but we have to make allowances.
Yeah, well, I think I worked out what the problem was, and I'll tell you when we've finished. Yeah.
Well, now it's not.
Because I'm not hearing anything now.
You're not buzzing.
I worked out when you were playing the trailer for The Burning. I worked out what the problem was. So.
Oh, okay. Can you, Erik? Would you mind apologising to the good people?
What? It was technical issues. It wasn't my fault.
You should say you're sorry. It's all your fault.
No, I'm being bullied.
You're not being bullied. You're just being asked to account for your own actions.
Bullied.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you again for listening, and that was The Burning, and we're off to Italy next time for sunnier climes, hopefully, with Erik's going to be presenting
It's very sunny
Sleepless.
in The Burning.
It was actually, yes, but not sunny here at the moment. Although I am off to sunnier climes in a week's time.
So am I, St Helens.
Where's that? That's yeah.
Between Liverpool and Manchester. Yeah.
Oh, it's a bit northern for me.
Oh yeah. Well, later this year, I'm thinking about going to Santiago, Chile, because I went twice last year.
Did you?
Well, you must know Kim Green.
Oh, exactly. And also, I designed some towers there.
Hey, is this another Simpsons reference?
No, actually, it's from There's Something About Mary. I knew Joseph would get it.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for listening again, and tune in next time. And and also, actually, contact the damn show as well. And this is how.
Be sure to search for and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at THC_podcast. Our voicemail is 858-233-9281. And you can email us directly at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com.
Yes, please do feedback, because we'd be nice to have the next show with some feedback. So, okay. Well, I've got choice now. We've got a choice between playing out with some more Burning music and I'm not a Madonna fan by a long stretch, but there's someone suggested playing Burning Up from 1981
Burning Up is actually
by
quite
Madonna.
a good song.
Sorry?
Burning Up is actually quite a good song.
That's from 1981, isn't it? So would that be a good one to play out with?
About 83, I think.
No, well, the original demo's from 81.
All right.
The only reason I know that, because I'm not a Madonna fan at all. I own no music by her, but I was searching for The Burning on YouTube, 1981, and it kept coming up with demos by Madonna for The Burning Up. So, shall I play out with that?
I would.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or
I was just going to say, I'd much rather hear Rick Wakeman, but we should please everyone else and go with Madonna.
Well, I'm quite happy to play Rick Wakeman.
I want Madonna.
Okay. Right. Well, if this show could get any more gay. So... Okay, well, we're playing out with Madonna and Burning Up, and see you next time. Say goodbye to the good people.
Goodbye to the good people.
Bye, lubricated rubbers.
So long.
Farewell.